thank you for joining me here on this Vegan Plant-Based Summit. How are you today?
I'm so good, thank you. How are you? You look brilliant.
Thank you. I noticed that you started your vegan journey 19, 20 years ago. So how did you start your journey as a vegetarian?
Yeah, it was a long time ago now. I can't believe you saying it. It was a good couple of decades ago. So I was 12 years old, and I really just wasn't keen on meat anyway. I wasn't a fussy eater, but I just much preferred, veggie, vegan style options, although I didn't really know those terms at the time. And then I think when I was 12, I just became a little bit more self-aware, aware of what's going on in the world around me as well. My dad lived on a farm, so I was kind of seeing what was going behind the scenes there as well. And I just decided to go vegetarian, really for the animal cruelty reasons, but also for a little bit of the environmental impact as well. So, it all kind of stemmed from the 12-year-old me, really.
So you started really early, and a lot of teenagers out there now, especially with Gen Z, they are so clued in on all of this, especially with the environment. I mean, what's your take on the environmental aspect of being vegan?
I think there is so much misinformation about from the agricultural industry, really, about how veganism can also be damaging to the planet. There's a lot of backlash at the moment because they know that we're so right about how veganism is really the single best thing that you can do for our environment. And I'm glad you raised this, actually, because I watched the new documentary Seaspiracy the other day with my husband, and it was a real eye-opener. And this is coming from somebody who knows a lot about the environmental impact that meat and dairy has on our whole planet. But this documentary was amazing. It showed us that over 40% of the rubbish in the ocean comes from fishing nets, and then there's another percentage after that comes from the rest of fishing gear as well. So well over 50% of the trash in the ocean comes from us just eating fish, consuming fish, all the bycatch that comes from that. It's only something like 0.03% that comes from things like plastic straws, even though a lot of conservation charities focus on us reducing the amount of plastic straws we use, that kind of thing, because they don't want to commit to telling people to go vegan for the environment. Mm-hmm. And this is just the ocean we're talking about here. We've got the methane gases that comes from producing animals in mass amounts to eat on the land, like cows, for example. There's just so much that goes into it from an environmental side that people don't realise. And of course, not everyone cares that much about the environment, but it's always going to be that thing in the background that's helping to keep us alive. We need trees. We need our oceans to be healthy. We need all of this for us to be able to live our lives. And I think a lot of people don't realise that going vegan is really the best thing that we can do to bring down our environmental impact.
It is. And also, deforestation is a huge problem at the moment. And a lot of people don't actually realise that it's not just the trees that you're removing to put cattle on and to grow soya on. It's not just about they're no longer taking up the oxygen, but when you dig the trees up from the ground, you release the carbon dioxide back into the environment. So, it's not just a case of digging the trees up or mass producing animals or fishing. It's a whole huge problem. And how do we actually, as individuals, go about solving this problem?
I think, first of all, we just need to take responsibility on an individual level. I think collective action is really important. And we always think, don't we, that I'm just one person, I can't make a difference. But actually, all the tens, hundreds of thousands of vegans across the world right now, all of us together, we are making a huge collective impact, for the welfare of animals, for our own health, and for the environment too, which isn't focused on as much. And I think if we can all make steps to going plant-based, to going vegan, to trying out those options, to reducing the amount of meat, dairy, eggs that we use, if we all did that just a little bit and started to make those steps, that would have a huge impact on what we do to the environment, because it takes a lot less soil, a lot less land, a lot less deforestation, like you say, to produce crops than it does to produce animals. And a lot of the crops that we do produce, of course, are fed to animals so that we can eat the animals. So it's like a vicious circle, really. We're kind of using up the land for the crops to feed to the animals, then we're eating the animals, and we could just eat those crops and make the environment such a much better place to live in. But apart from that collective, that individual and collective responsibility that we've got, I think we can do things as well. Once we get into it more and we learn more, we can lobby businesses, we can choose to support businesses that are carbon neutral or carbon negative, that are maybe small businesses or local businesses that don't have to transport their goods halfway around the planet for us to be able to use them. We can think about using companies that are using more sustainable materials rather than plastic. There are so many small things that we can do in our everyday lives that really do add up if we were all to do it together, I think.
I think you're right. And I also think that when we're actually looking for things to buy and services to use, we should be looking for sustainable companies that offer mainly eco-friendly products rather than just anything for the sake of making money. Now, you are a health coach and you specialize in something that a lot of people have problems with, and that's junk food. Yeah. So one of the issues that I face with is not the junk food itself, because I really don't eat a lot of junk food, but it's the carbohydrate pangs. So how do you instruct your ladies to actually deal with the carbohydrate pangs and the general junk food obsession that we have here in the West?
Yeah, the great thing is that being a coach, when you work with someone on an individual level, you can really start to see what their triggers are, what their habits are, and what they're craving. For some, it can be that sugar addiction. For some, it's that the fats. And for others, like you say, it's more the carbohydrates. So, we've got the pastries, the crisps, the things that are being thrown in our face through advertising and through fast food every single day, constantly. So it's no wonder really that we kind of have these pangs when we start to lessen our dependence on these foods. And for me, carbohydrates aren't a bad thing. I will eat potatoes, sweet potatoes, whole grain rice, healthy pastas. I love buckwheat pasta, chickpea pasta, all these kinds of things, because I tend to eat gluten-free anyway. So I don't really go for the refined flours that go into pasta sometimes. But we absolutely can eat carbohydrates and be healthy. So you can't satisfy that urge to eat carbohydrates without eating the unhealthy stuff. I always say that we don't have to get rid of something out of our diet 100%. We just need to tweak how we see things and what would satisfy me instead. And to be honest, that comes down to an individual choice and an individual level, which is why coaching is such an amazing thing to do if you have that problem. But yeah, eating potatoes is fine. We just don't fry them to death. We use a lot less oil. We'll have jacket potatoes or we'll air fry them. There's so many different options for people out there if they really love their carbohydrates, but they just want a healthier option. They are looking to lose weight or just be more healthy on the inside with heart health and all the rest of it. There are just so many options out there. So I try to get clients to not see it in a giving up, a restrictive way, but just moving away from one type of carbohydrate and moving towards another. And that seems to work really well.
The diet industry at the moment, I say for the moment, I think it's been going on since the 80s, the 90s, but it seems to be obsessed with a keto diet. And the keto diet isn't that healthy, as we all know. And it also says no carbs. Now, if you have no carbs, it's like running a car with no petrol. I mean, what's your perspective on the keto diet?
I'm quite outspoken about this diet. Now, the keto diet has actually been around for decades, and it started out as a very specific diet for people who had really specific issues in terms of medical issues. They needed to be on this diet to help manage those. But now the dieting industry have really caught on and are really promoting it just to the everyday person without severe medical issues as a way to lose weight. And there are a lot of long-term studies out there that are showing that keto diet is really bad for our heart health, really bad for our long-term health. And I mean, if we think about it just in general terms, a diet that's promoting us to eat a lot of animal products, or the products that are really high in fat, and eating less things like vegetables, natural foods, that just doesn't sit right with me at all, because the research all says otherwise. We don't need to cut out one type of food completely whatsoever anyway. It's all about the balance. It's all about getting more veggies, more fruits onto the plate, more natural foods. And I think keto is really the opposite of that, and people will see results from it in the short term, but you'll either then give it up because it is a very, very restrictive diet, so people just can't generally keep it up in the long term, in which case you'll come off it and you'll put all the weight back on, which we don't want when you've gone to so much effort to lose the weight. Or you'll carry it on in the long term and you'll start to see a decline in health in other areas, because let's face it, our health isn't just about weight loss. It's not just about how we look on the outside. We want to have good internal health too, because what's the point in looking good if you're going to end up getting chronic diseases and heart problems when you're in your 50s or 60s? So you're not going to be around for the rest of your life to show off that amazing body. So we don't want keto for people where possible. It really is for specific medical reasons. I always try and say that to people who are about to get sucked into that diet.
Yeah, and on the other side of things, there's always a latest diet fad that people are sucked into. And on Instagram, I've noticed that the latest one is this Japanese tonic that you take before bed, and it miraculously loses 50 pounds of fat whilst you're asleep. I mean, common sense tells you it doesn't. And if you do actually lose weight on the Japanese tonic diet, then you're going to be doing it because you're eating sensibly and you're exercising and you're drinking plenty of water and you're getting plenty of sleep. What's your take on fad diets such as this?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of fad diets whatsoever. And in the past, after I had my first little girl, I had weight to lose. I was the heaviest I ever was because I was breastfeeding, eating so much, just grabbing junk food, really. I wasn't the model health coach that I am today, you could say. And I tried fad diets. I just didn't know any better back then. I tried different ones. I'd maybe lose a little bit of weight, put the weight back on. Then I feel like a failure because I hadn't managed to lose the weight. I was wondering what was wrong with me. Your self-confidence really drops when you go through these fad diets. So it's not just about you losing weight. It's all about your self-esteem as well. You feel like you're doing something wrong because the adverts told you that, you should have lost 30 pounds by now. So why haven't you? Or why can't I keep this up? It's too hard. When really the reality is, for the majority of people, you just need to eat a little bit less and get in a calorie deficit. You don't need to eat, dramatically less, just a little bit less. Eat higher quality foods instead of the junk food. Eat things that are lower calorie density, like filling your plates up with veggies, that kind of thing, and getting a little bit of movement in every day. And that doesn't have to be going off for a marathon run every single day. Picking a little bit of movement that you like, whether it's a little bit of yoga for 20 minutes or even starting out just with a 20-minute walk if you're not used to doing any exercise, and building up from there is a really good thing to do. So for me, it's all about the moderation. It's all about making those small changes, eating a bit less, moving a bit more, eating better quality food, and finding a way of life that works for you, because we want you to be eating and moving in a way that's going to be sustainable for the rest of your life, not just while you're trying to lose weight, because we have to think ahead and think, okay, what am I going to do when I've lost this weight? How am I going to keep it off? And that's what a lot of people don't think about. So yeah, not a fan of fad diets over here, if you hadn't guessed already.
Yes. So what you're actually saying is it's a lifestyle choice, and it doesn't have to be something that's unachievable long term. It's better to actually focus on what's achievable, even if that means going for a 20-minute walk every day. There's a lot of emphasis on you must go on the treadmill, you just must do cardio, you must cut your calories a lot, which is not true. You should eat, the latest one is eat high fat, high protein, low carb, And you should really, really invest in a gym membership. And for a lot of people, this is not achievable. Gym memberships are a lot of money and out of the reach of a lot of people. What sort of exercise plan would you suggest that people who can't afford a gym membership or don't want to go to the gym, because that's another thing, a lot of people don't like going to the gym. So what would you suggest that they could do to save money but exercise and engage at the same time?
You're absolutely right. And, you know, a lot of my clients say, oh, they have kids, so they just can't get out to the gym physically. I mean, I know I couldn't. I've got a baby and a 5-year-old. When am I ever going to be able to go to the gym for an hour? I'd love that, a bit of time by myself, but there you go. And they just don't want to either, or they're busy women working high-profile jobs. You know, there's no time to be doing that all the time. For me, it's all about doing something that you enjoy, so something that's going to make it easier for you to just get out of your chair and go and do it. And it doesn't matter if that's a brisk walk, if it is a run. I'm not a fan of running. It's never been my thing. But for some people, they love it. So if it's a run, go do that. There are loads of YouTube videos out there for yoga, Pilates, doing dance routines to kind of cheesy music. Sometimes I'll have a dance to, you know, cheesy 90s music with my girls there, so I can do it with the kids there. It's all about finding what works in your routine. All I say to clients is, try and get active most days, at least 5 days a week, for 20 to 30 minutes if you can. And if that can only look like a brisk walk with the kids one day, that's absolutely fine, because you're doing more than you did before. As long as you're improving and you're making changes and it fits in with your lifestyle, then that's going to be sustainable for you. It's going to get your heart rate up a little bit, and it's going to help you to get healthy on the inside and to lose that weight if you want to as well. So it's all about doing something you enjoy and something that fits in with your lifestyle. And I've had clients who live in really small apartments where they can't even lay out a yoga mat without rearranging their furniture. And we found exercises for them, chair exercises, kind of on the spot exercises, getting out to parks, doing walks, runs, that kind of thing. I really do think there's no excuse. There's an exercise regime out there for everybody, no matter what your restrictions might be.
And there's also the facility of resistance bands. They don't cost a lot of money nowadays, and you can take them everywhere. And you can use a tree as your main support. You can use a park bench. You can use anything. And education starts really, really young, and it starts in the home. And obviously, if you're going for a walk with your girls, if you're exercising in front of your girls, they're going to want to do the same thing, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. And I do yoga at home. They'll often join in, or afterwards, this is more the older one, of course. She'll do kids yoga on YouTube instead. No cost, completely free. And the resistance bands, I actually got some the other week. I just started a buggy fit class with the baby for when the eldest is at school, and we do that together. I've joined that class. It's very cheap. The resistance bands for 5, I think, were about £15. That's a one-off cost, not much whatsoever. To invest in those, you can carry them around in a little bag, so you don't need space to store them like you might a treadmill or more bulky equipment. And you can do it around the kids. You can do that kind of stretching and that resistance work anywhere. Like you say, there really is something for everybody that's low cost and low investment.
And if £15 is a lot of money for people, they can always ask for it for Christmas or their birthday or any special occasion, or a save. Now, you have a specific niche that you target your services to, and that is to busy mums that want to kick the junk food. So how's that work?
Yeah, well, I started off just really helping anybody out there who wanted my help. But I think women have a slightly different physiology to men, first of all. So it was good for me to work with women rather than men. And just because I have that background myself in struggling to lose weight after I had my baby, and I'd never had to lose weight before. So this was a whole new territory for me. I was prime target really for the diet industry. I learned a lot through that, and I hired my own health coach who helped me to lose weight in a sustainable way. And that is actually what set me on the path to becoming a health coach myself. And so now I work with busy women or busy mums to help them lose weight in a sustainable way, because I know what it's like to not have the time to look at new recipes every day, to buy a ton of ingredients for every meal, to make up complicated meal plans, and just to have kids to feed as well, and not want to have to make multiple meals a day for everyone. You can make easy family meals that you'll all enjoy, but that are healthy for you as well. So I just feel by going into that niche, I've got that background, I've been through it, I can relate to these ladies, I know what their issues are, because they're my issues from the past. And also now having the baby, you know, I don't want to be standing around every day making loads of meals from scratch. And I don't want to have to take out an hour every single day to exercise either. So I can help these women fit it around their kids, fit it around busy jobs and the commitments that they're juggling, and make it really easy and achievable for them.
And one of the things I've noticed, I mean, I have grandchildren who suffer from the same problem that my children suffered from, that I suffered from as a child and my parents suffered from. They just don't like vegetables. What would you suggest to parents who have children that just will not eat vegetables, and they're in the situation where they're preparing 4 or 5 different meals every day?
Funny thing is, actually, what I advocate for is not making a big deal of it whatsoever. Now, it depends on how old your kids are here, but from birth, my kids, I've put the same meal that we've had in front of them on the table, and they'll eat what they want. And you choose when they eat. So when you're going to sit at the table together, you choose what goes on the plate, but they choose the quantity to eat. And you give them that autonomy over their body and over what they're going to eat and what they like. And if you really feel like they're not eating anything whatsoever, which is very rare, because they will start to like foods and taste buds will change over time, just like ours do as adults, really. You can do things like hide them in a pasta sauce, hide them in a smoothie, give them a juice. My girls have a smoothie every day because they're not so keen on spinach and kale and the more leafy veg. They love green veg like broccoli, but the leafy things they're a little bit suspicious of. So every day I make them a smoothie, and I'll put a load of spinach in that, and they don't even know it's in there. So there are ways of doing it if you really feel like your children might have an issue not getting the nutrients in. But in general, I just make them what we eat. I put it in front of them and they get to choose what they eat. And if I know they don't like something, I'll still put a little bit of it on the plate, because often over time, I've found with my 5-year-old, she'll get used to it being on the plate. She'll have a little nibble, a little try, and then she'll start to like it after time. So it's a little bit of a long game with kids. You just have to not make a big deal of things, put the food in front of them and see what they want to eat, and set that example yourself, because you're eating the same thing, you're enjoying it, you can show that you're enjoying it. And so you're raising them in that way.
So obviously your main clientele are busy ladies who have 9 to 5 jobs. What sort of meal plan would you suggest to them for keeping their meals regular but healthy during the day whilst they're working?
So I really like batch making and meal planning, and turning meals that you already love but maybe aren't the healthiest into something that we can just tweak slightly, because you already know how to make them quickly. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So if you're a big fan of spaghetti bolognese, for example, we can sub out the meat or the mince for lentils. We can stop using a jar sauce. We can start using passata instead, and it's a meal that we can make in bulk. We can freeze it. It's all about those little tweaks that allow us to have food when we come home at the end of the day, so you're not making something from scratch. So we tend to meal plan, we batch make, we meal plan in a way that's really simple, so that you've got snacks and you've got meals as you go through the week. We identify, where your busy periods of time are, so that you're not having to do any prep whatsoever when you get home, or maybe your kids are a little bit of a pain between 5 and 6 in the evening, they start to run wild. You're not going to have time to be chopping up a load of vegetables and standing by the stove watching something cook. We make that work for you. So there are all kinds of little tweaks out there in terms of breakfast, lunch, dinner and snacks, so that you can feel full and not feel like you're in the kitchen all of the time like I used to after I'd had my first. I just felt like I was, making things all of the time. It was such an effort to lose the weight and to be healthy, but doesn't need to be like that whatsoever. So, you know, what they eat will depend on the person, their tastes, what they're used to, what they're like, but we'll make healthy plant-based lunches, which are usually loaded salads, nothing boring, or soups, something like that, or a wrap, and a hot plant-based dinner, which could be a range of things. You know, it could be lentil bolognese, it could be something like lasagna, which you wouldn't think could be healthy, but it absolutely can. It can be curries, it can be Mexican food, it can be pad thai, anything like that. You know, there's such a variety of things that we can have that are healthy.
The world's a smaller place now. 20, 30 years ago, we weren't aware of things like pad thai and Mexican spices and burritos. But today, the flavor in vegan food is so enormous. It's really not a chore. It's something that you look forward to. We talked about how your vegetarian journey started. What about your vegan journey? How did that begin?
Yes, I was vegetarian for about 12 years. So I was about 24 when I became vegan. And it wasn't an overnight thing for me, actually. And people do think they have to just go vegan overnight, and that's what stops them. It's just seems too overwhelming. But I started to go on social media a little bit more. I was a graduate from the sciences, so I really liked my studies, my research-based evidence rather than just anecdotal. I started looking at a lot of research studies about how veganism was better for the planet, how it was better for health, and of course how it's better in terms of animal cruelty as well, which is the main reason most people do go vegan. But you've got those three reasons there, and I looked into the studies, the research. I was very objective about it. I saw slaughterhouse videos on Facebook. There was just so many things that went into making me go vegan. It just seemed like a no-brainer to me in the end, because I saw the video footage, I read the research. These were facts, and how could I not, once I knew the impact that I was personally having on the planet, the impact that I was having on animals through eating eggs still and eating dairy still. I thought I was really good for not eating meat, but I had no idea what was going on in the industries with regards to drinking milk and eating eggs. I had no idea. And it just went from there, really. I kind of started trying plant milks out. I swapped those out. I swapped milk out for plant milk in my cereal, my tea, that kind of thing. I think eggs were probably the last thing that I gave up, because I had eggs in quite a lot of things that I ate. I just went from there. I started to eat more vegan foods, finding things that I liked, finding vegan options when I was out and about. And I didn't make a big deal of it for myself. I just slowly staggered it, and it went from there, really. Because I had that slow progression into veganism, I don't really have a vegan anniversary like a lot of people do. I don't know the exact date that I went vegan, and a lot of people I know celebrate that nowadays, which is quite a nice thing to do, really. But I don't know when I went vegan, but it's been roughly 7 or 8 years now. And since then, I've had my girls, they're raised vegan. My husband went vegan just over 2 years ago. So I was living with a meat eater for some time. We were already married when I went vegan. So it was a little bit strange doing that. But he's now vegan. He's been vegan for a good couple of years. So we're a completely vegan household. So we've gone from, you know, being vegetarian to all of us eating vegan. And it's taken time, but we've done it and we absolutely love it.
That's amazing. And one of the things I noticed from your website is you are a vegan coach, but it really doesn't matter if you're not vegan. Clients can still come to you, and the meal plans that you create are mainly vegan, are tailored to the person's requirements and the outcome that they're looking for. So can you just talk me through how you would actually help somebody who isn't vegan yet transition?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a very inclusive Facebook group as well that even states on it, you do not have to be 100% vegan to join this group. It's a great community of women, and they're looking to lose weight in a sustainable way and eat more plants, but maybe just aren't sure about, you know, making that final leap and calling themselves vegan. It's like a really big deal to some people. And all I say to people who are looking to move towards veganism is to do it in a time frame that works for you. You don't need to throw all your existing food out. Start buying some plant cheeses, plant milk, see what works for you, because there will be some that you don't like. There's things out there that I don't like that are vegan. And there'll be, you know, maybe types of tofu, how it's marinated that you don't like. There'll be, just like there is veggies you don't like and fruits you don't like. You know, find stuff that works for you and slowly replace what you've already got with the vegan items, and try to veganize meals that you already like as well. It doesn't have to be, you know, a whole new lifestyle. You can still, you know, eat mashed potato. You can still have a roast dinner. You can still have a stir fry. You're just having some slightly different ingredients in there. And often we don't even notice much of a difference in there. And people think it's going to be this huge change. But these days, with how accessible vegan food is, even from 7 years ago when I became vegan, things have changed so much. You've got such a range of things to choose from that I would just say, when you start going shopping, when you go to the supermarket, pick up a few vegan items, try them out instead of buying the meat, the dairy, the eggs, see how you feel about them, find things that you like and just work from there. It doesn't have to be a case of throwing everything out and starting from scratch, because that can just seem too much for people, I think, unless you're really geared up to do it. Because I know people who have transitioned overnight, but for a lot of people, they're just not sure where to start. So I just say, start somewhere, start to cook a few vegan meals a week, start to add some more vegan groceries into your weekly shop, and just see how that sits with you and just grow it.
One of the things that us vegans have an issue with is eating in restaurants, especially if we're trying to lose the fat as well. What would you suggest to people that are going out with family or friends or with a partner for a special meal, and they're sitting there in a restaurant with very minimal vegan options, wondering, what am I going to eat apart from lettuce?
Yeah, I used to have this problem 7 years ago, but I will say now, actually, especially here in the UK, and I know in the US as well, there are so many vegan options out there now. So it's a little bit less common to have this issue, especially if you go into more larger chains. It seems to be more smaller little local restaurants that still haven't caught onto the trend. But I always say, get to know which restaurants are willing to make you a custom meal or that have vegan options on the menu that are around where you live, if you can, as soon as you're going vegan, as soon as you're looking to have meals that contain a bit less fat, less refined sugar, etc. And if you can, have a say in which restaurant you're going to as a family. Try and steer people towards an option, a place that's got vegan-friendly options. And if not, the place has already been decided, you know, it's the day off, for example, just give them a call. Often things that are labelled as vegetarian on the menu are rather vegan, but they just don't really label their things very well. Or they can easily make a tweak to that recipe for you and make it vegan. Often, if you just turn up at the restaurant randomly, it might be a little bit too late for them to do anything for you. But I think if you can just call them up a little bit beforehand, they can often make amendments. And saying that, I've even been to places just off the cuff and they've been able to adapt things for me. Or if not, I've ordered a selection of sides or starters instead, and I've made it work and I've added those together. There's always little tricks and ways around these things. And of course, if you're looking to lose weight, you're looking to have less fat and refined sugar in your diet, you know, go for a light starter instead of a dessert, or just go for one course, go for a fruit platter instead for your dessert, and just have a think about how the 3 courses or 2 courses are balancing themselves out when you're eating. But there is definitely more vegan options out there, I'd say now. We're very fortunate.
Compared to when the only vegan option on the menu was cauliflower and broccoli baked with cheese.
Yeah,
it's come a long way since then. So talking of recipes then, is there a recipe that you feel that you'd be able to share with us that's very easy to cook, very quick to cook, and takes limited ingredients? Because not everybody has a kitchen full of flamboyant ingredients. It's usually the basics.
Yeah, I've got a really great Thai curry recipe actually that's full of protein. It's really delicious, and it's something that you can make in bulk if you've got kids. Or you just don't have the time to keep making things day after day. You can freeze it in portions and pull it out when you want to. It's a really great recipe because you can put a bit of extra coconut milk, and if you're not too keen on the Thai spices, or if your kids aren't, you can slightly water it down for them if you need to. And it's a really easy recipe as well. Plus, it's one that you can slightly adapt to add different veggies in. So if you've got something that needs using up in the fridge and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to let that go to waste, but where am I going to use it? You can stick it in this and it'll go down amazingly. It's a really adaptable recipe. And it's not one that I've published before, but I'd be happy to share with everyone watching and listening today, because it's something that I use at home all of the time.
There's some great tips there, some good information. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you want to add into that?
No, I just want to say if anybody resonates with what I've been saying today, especially in terms of what I do as a health coach, maybe you're a busy woman, you're a busy mom out there, and you're looking to lose a few pounds or just get healthy inside and outside, and you're a bit like me, you're sick of these fad diets, do come over and join our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/group/learner vegan. That's the name of my business. So if you search for Learner Vegan anywhere, you'll find me everywhere over social media. But come and join our group. There's some fantastic women in there who have got success stories, who are just starting their journey, who are in the middle of the journey. We have a great chat in there. We share recipes, we share weight loss tips, and it's all done in a really positive, sustainable way. So if you do want to connect with me more, I would say that's the first step to do that. Come and have a chat.
And it doesn't matter where the potential clients are in the world. They can be from anywhere, as long as they connect.
Absolutely. Weight loss, health, it's universal.
So when you first become vegan or plant-based, one of the issues that everybody who we've interviewed today has said is being at the forefront of their journey is peer pressure. Whether it's peer pressure from their friends or peer pressure from their work colleagues or from their family. How would you get people to come to terms with the peer pressure and deal with it?
I love that question, because I went through this, 7-8 years ago when I became vegan. And some of it was a little bit of fault from me, actually, because I was so passionate about going vegan, and most of it was for the animals. I'm a huge animal lover, and I just couldn't believe that everybody in the world wasn't vegan. And I thought if I just told everybody what was happening in the world, everybody would go vegan. And of course, that isn't the case. We're all different. That's the beauty of it. That's the uniqueness of us all. And I could probably come off as a little bit aggressive, trying to persuade people to go vegan. So what I would say really is to kind of preempt which people in your life are going to be automatically supportive and just objective about it, and kind of, you do you kind of point of view, and which people are going to be either worried or angry or come at you with some myths that they believe that, the marketing world out there has told them. And just make sure you've got little answers prepared for that. I mean, it takes no time at all to just do a little bit of research about vegan nutrition and how vegans absolutely can have a nutritionally balanced diet. It's on the NHS website, it's on the PCRM website, that they recommend a vegan diet for people. Just having sources there to refer people to. If you're not a very confident speaker and you don't know what to say, you can refer people to the facts, and kind of then you're keeping your emotions out of it almost as well. You're saying, actually, it is nutritionally balanced, and these people have studied it and they say this. So don't worry, I have looked into it. I know absolutely what I'm doing. And make sure they know as well that you're not expecting them to automatically go vegan. You can let them know that if they come to your house, you'll probably cook a really delicious plant-based meal for them. If you go out for a meal or whatever, you're not expecting them to be exactly the same as you, because I think people can get very defensive when their points of view and things that they've been doing their whole life, their morals, are being challenged. And I think when you go vegan, it can put up a flag, it can put up a barrier between you and family and friends to say, oh gosh, they're saying that what I'm doing is wrong, because, I am eating meat, I am eating dairy and eggs, but they're not. So are they judging me? What do they think of me now? And so I think staying calm, being non-confrontational about it, having some facts behind you, and making it clear that while you'd love them to explore some more plant-based meals if they want to, you don't expect that from them. It's your choice, and you've looked into it thoroughly before you've made the decision, is really the way to go. And then often you'll lead by example, and people are more likely to follow you with that. I know my mum, she's always eaten very traditionally. She's retired now, but she was a cook for a long time. Very standard British meals, lots of cheese, meat, eggs, that kind of thing. And now she hardly eats any meat. She eats plant-based a lot of the time. And that's something that I could never have imagined her doing. And that's from no pressure from me whatsoever. It's just her seeing my health improve, my happiness improve. She's seen little bits about the environment, animal cruelty, and she's kind of just taken my example and ran with it and made it work for her. And I think often family members will do that, although it might take a little bit of time, and it can be frustrating when you're really passionate about the cause. I think you just need to stay calm and lead by example.
Great advice there, great advice. And I'm sure that most people, once you lead by example, they're going to follow, because they'll see the health benefits, they'll see how clean living you are, and they'll want the same benefits.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for joining me here today on this Vegan Plant-Based Summit, and it's been really, really, really informative. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.